Hey everyone, today I'm creating some cards using the November 2022 Call Me Crafty SheetLoad of Cards template. I am part of the collaboration team, so if you use the hashtag on the screen below, and it's also in the description and in the title of the video, you'll be able to see all the fantastic videos from the other creators. There will also be a link to where you can find the template, and it has 3 12 by 12 to make 18 cards. I, however, in usual fashion, have chosen to use this Pretty in Pink Christmas 6x6 paper pad from Paper Rose. In order to use the different size paper, it means I can't follow the card sketch instructions, but because the dimensions of the panels you need to cut are quite simple, I didn't have any trouble at all just working through that with the 6x6 paper pad. This pack is absolutely gorgeous. I am not really a pink person, but there is something really, really pretty about the greys and the pinks and the blacks. This paper pack was fantastic to work with. I really, really enjoyed it. I will say when I picked it, I thought, look, there's a couple of pieces of paper in here that aren't as busy and they'll help me balance out the designs on the paper. But what I found is it was really tricky to not have them compete with each other. So you'll see a little bit later in the video some of the decisions I made about making sure that I was really happy with the paper and the designs that I chose for each card. So here I'm just cutting out a template so that I can get a little bit used to where I think the papers are going to line up. I always find it better to have at least one of them ready to go when it's an unusual card shape. So this one actually has a gap in the card so you can see through to where you would write your message. So you would have to be pretty careful about where you write the message when you use the card. But again, you'll see that a little bit later in the video. At this point, I'd sorted things into a pretty decent color combination, and so it was time to get started with chopping things up. The size of the panels are really straightforward. The vertical panel that goes on the front is 2 by 4 inches, and then the other two pieces that you use, one is 2.5 by 4 and the other is 1.25 by 4. So what I ended up doing in the end, because it got very complicated with how many pieces I need of each size and how I was going to merge the patterns and mix the patterns up, I decided to cut them down into 2.5 by 4 and then the 2 by 4, and then that meant that as I worked through it, I could chop the 2.5 by 4 in half, and it created 2 of the 1.25 panels. Hopefully that's not too confusing, but I did find that that helped me out a lot because I just was not sure which papers I was going to put together. This one was a little bit of a struggle, and I've left quite a bit of it in the video just that you can see it does not always work first time, and I do have to work through it. I mean, at this point, I was trying to match things up, and you can see me fuss around. I put the little pink cars, and then I change it to be the presents, and everything I put felt too busy. And then if I put something plain, there wasn't enough of the plain, therefore it was just going to cause an issue with one of the other cards. So I kept trying, and I fiddled, and I fiddled, and I fiddled repeatedly. I created combinations that I really liked, but it just meant that I wasn't going to be able to complete the other cards with a combination. So this is what I did. I dug into my stash of tonic specialty papers, and I used this in a recent video, and I thought my answer when the paper is competing is to add in some plain paper in matching tones, or in this case, some specialty paper. So instead of having these all matched up, I'm now laying them out on my desk by design. And so I'm literally just, what have I got that's the vertical? What have I got that's the horizontal pieces? Just to get a bit of a feel for it. And then I'm using this gorgeous pink kind of quilted type paper. And then there is a silver one as well. I only introduced 2. So just 2 that matched with the paper itself. Definitely from a different company, but they matched beautifully. So I'm running through and I'm cutting out either the 2.5 by 4 or the 1.25 by 4. And in most instances, I only had one of the specialty papers with the pattern paper. The only exception is that one on the bottom right-hand corner. For all of the others, I had 2 pattern papers and then 1 specialty paper together. And that really made all the difference. The next step was to prepare the card bases. I had standard A2, which is 5.5 by 4.25, with a top fold. And then I had to chop down the 2 pieces to create the gap in the middle. And I highly suggest, rather than me trying to explain it, please follow the instructions. It gives you all of the details and all the dimensions to make sure that you get it right. For these cards here, I'm just adding everything to the matting layer. So these are the front bottom of the card. And then here I'm attaching the 2x4 to a white piece of cardstock. And I did make sure I used cardstock for all of these components, just so that they had enough weight to them to be able to hold up, especially considering that there is going to be a gap in the card itself. I'm now just adding the third piece of pattern paper, and that's to the panel at the top of the card. And then you'll see that I do fiddle around trying to get the best technique to put the card together so that everything is straight. It takes a little bit of practice, and I would suggest the best way to do it is you attach the 2x4 to the lower portion of the card first, and then you attach it to the top fold. So this is what I was doing when I was trying to work it out. So I've heavily left aligned it, and then here you can see me trying to line it up perfectly at the bottom. Then I'm trying to hold the flap, and then I'm trying to stick the card, and I'm trying to line it up, and it was a little bit fiddly. It did work, but it was very fiddly. So this is when I did decide maybe there is a better way, and I attached that vertical panel first. For today's project, I actually used the entire paper pack. And because I added the extra specialty paper, I think I got about 35, 36 cards out of it altogether, but I didn't actually put everything together. So on the top right-hand corner of my screen, you can't probably tell, but there's a Ziploc bag that has all of the components to make some extra cards. And I just decided that because I was going to be putting together so many, that I would just do, half of them today. I'd put the others in a Ziploc, and then I could just glue them all together at the point where I actually needed them. And I wanted to either donate them to a charity or put together some cards for family and friends. It just seems to be a good time saver. So while I've got all the products out, I make all of the decisions and get the cards ready to go, but I don't have to spend the time gluing everything together in one sitting. So here you can see I'm attaching some spare cardstock to the bottom right-hand corner of the cutter part. This just means that when you attach it to the card, it sits nice and flat. This is also really important because part of it is going to hang over that gap in the card. So I just wanted to make sure that everything was flat and everything was attached really, really securely. It's another reason why I use my liquid glue for this part rather than using my ATG. The other decision I made was to not add a sentiment. To be honest, I wasn't exactly sure where to put it, and I also found that just due to the nature of this paper pack, some of these cards don't need to be Christmas. So I thought if I leave it without the sentiment, I can then make the decision later on to either add it, or if one of them does look particularly like a Christmas card, you could write the Christmas message inside instead of actually putting it on the outside. That is very unusual for me, but I am trying to do different things in each video and put myself out of my comfort zone. And so creating a card without a sentiment on the front, I don't think I've ever done that before. If you're enjoying the video, it would be great if you could hit the like button. It does help it spread to more viewers. And if you create cards without sentiments, let me know below. I'm sure there's probably a lot of people who do that. It's not something that I normally do, but I'm interested to know if you add sentiments or if you don't add sentiments. I have put some links in the description below to all the products that I've used today, just in case it's helpful. And I have put another video here that I think you might enjoy. Have a great day.